screw up all the time. I learn from that, and now I have much better systems and programs because of all my failures. To be happy is easy, but most people don't want to be happy. They want to be happier than other people. And we overestimate how happy other people are.
Real estate professionals, welcome home. You're here, RMG Agent Podcast and rmgagentpodcast.com. We are going through our Master Series where we're interviewing incredible real estate professionals that have been in the business 10 years or longer, who have taken their licks and are still building huge lives, building great businesses, and we want to learn from them and just create a conversation for you guys to walk into. Jake, hi.
Hello.
Good to see you, buddy.
So, we have TV star Nick Waldner.
Yes.
So what did Nick have for us to learn from?
Oh my gosh. Anytime I get a chance to talk to Nick, he's a good buddy of mine. You just walk away and smiling, right? Not just smiling with your face, but you feel like your whole body is smiling because of the interaction you had with Nick. And I got a chance to sit down and talk with him. And Nick has built a phenomenal business, and everybody loves Nick because he is just somebody who brings people in. You can tell that in his business. You can tell that with the people he surrounds himself by. But what you'll be listening for in this interview is personal responsibility, those moments where you take a step back and realize, wait a second, I have to grow in this area. So you'll be seeing these moments of deep ownership and deep introspection that I think so many people get caught on the front side of that. But Nick is somebody who has pushed through that and really has carved out a huge business and a huge life as a result.
Nice. That's awesome. One of the things that I'm finding that's really interesting with listening to these is the similarities and the differences at ways that these people are coming about kind of the same thing, right? Yeah. Which I think is really awesome for all of us to get to hear. And so as always, we are here to impact, empower, and encourage you in all things that you do.
All right, guys, here we're going to get to it with the interview with Master Nick Waldner. Nick, thanks for joining me, brother.
Thank you, sir. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Excited to be here.
Where are you from, and who are you?
So I am from the beautiful state of Maryland. If you're on the West Coast, you actually don't know where Maryland is because you don't know where it is on a map, but we're about midway. If you know your capital, Washington, D.C., we're right above that.
Nice.
So I've got a beautiful wife at home with 3 babies, 8 months, 3 years old, and 5.5.
Wow.
And I have a crazy person who was calling me last night. She's my wife, and she's like, we need a 4th. We should have a 4th. Well, let's do a 4th.
Come on.
No, 3 is good.
A hat trick's good, 4 is better.
So we'll see.
Excellent. So Nick, we go way back now, right? Why should people listen to you?
Well, I think that when you say we go way back, I think the understanding of where do we go back from. We both got into real estate, came in different directions. I've been doing it for 20 years. I did it terrible for probably the first 10.
Sure.
And maybe 10, 12 years ago, we met in a mastermind with other top agents, and we were selling like 50 homes or 60 homes and thinking we're doing really well. But I think combined us using our own education and learning from each other and growing together, and now we're selling 400, 500, 700, 1,000 homes. And it's the progression of growth in that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for, if you find somebody who sells 300 homes, it's their 3rd year in the real estate business, I guarantee it's a mess on the back end.
Oh, for sure.
But ours is a mess as well, so don't get me wrong.
Right.
But ours is less of a mess because we spent years screwing things up and getting better. So if you're gonna listen to me, you're only listening to me because I screw up all the time. I learned from that, and now I have much better systems and programs because of all my failures.
There's this pattern of messing it up, and you've been doing this long enough that you can't mess it up and then just hide it and continue, right?
And the other part is like you get systems and you have things that are really working for you, but they don't allow you to get to the next level. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that whole system that I put together that got me to here is not going to get me to there.
Yeah. So we look back, you've been in the industry for 20 years now, which is weird to say, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are one or two truly defining moments in your career?
In my career, I think the first one happened early in my career. I remember, I'll try to give you the short version of this story. I can remember a girlfriend. At the time, we had a heated discussion, like you do, and she stomped to the door, and she turned around and she said to me, "You're a terrible boyfriend. All you do is work. All you ever do is work, and you're going to be a terrible husband."
Whoa.
She slammed the door, and what did I think? She's crazy. So then my next girlfriend, we get into a heated discussion, and she stomps off towards the door, and she says, "Nick, all you do is work. All you care about is work. You're a terrible boyfriend. You're going to be a terrible husband." And I thought, gosh, I probably could have wrote the script for her. Like, I knew that. And then she slammed the door, and I thought, she's crazy. Third girlfriend, like I told you, I fail a lot. I'm not very smart. Third girlfriend, she starts stomping to the door, and I'm like, I already have the script. I got it laminated.
I know how this works.
Let me give it to you. She got to the door, and she said, "You're a terrible boyfriend. All you do is work. All you care about is work. You're going to be a terrible husband, and you're going to be a terrible father."
Oh my gosh.
That was the one that was like, the door slammed, and I was like, holy cow. And you know, I didn't have the perfect upbringing as a kid, and I didn't have the perfect father figure. I had a stepfather who stepped in and did an amazing job, but I always kind of wanted my dad. And I just had this vision of, if I continue down this path and I'm not there for my kids the way I wanted my dad to be there for me, I've got to change. And that was the instant in my business that was like, no more. I was probably 8 or 9 years in the business. Everything was on me. And I was like, forget it. I'm either going to build a business so that I can coach all the sports teams and I can be there for dinner at night and be there on the weekends, or I'm finding a new career.
Wow. So, okay, so how do you respond to that kind of an emotional hit in a mature way? Like, what was your path?
Well, I have no idea how to do it in a mature way. Do you want to know how I did it?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
So I immediately was like, all right, there's got to be a book on this. And I was with Remax at the time, and I was like, there's got to be a book on this. What do I need to do? I need to leverage. I need to, add people. And I started learning all these things through books. And then I would go to my broker and I'd say, hey, I need to have an assistant, and I need to create these systems. And they were all like, what are you talking about? Just sell real estate. You're doing fine. You were number 2 in the office. Like, just shut up and sell real estate. And that was the moment where I realized I'm in the wrong room. I'm surrounded by people that think that if I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's a success story.
Right.
And I changed the rooms, and I changed the places where I was getting information, and that's where you came into my life. Like, that's where we met, when we were all going through that journey together, trying to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
And building businesses. And that was massively changing when I changed my surroundings.
So what comes to mind is that there's like maybe 3 ways that somebody can respond to that, right? You decided to like roll up your sleeves and figure out how to do it differently. But when either of us go and teach a class, there's always a handful of people there that they can tell you with an incredible amount of emotional load that their life is out of control and they're workaholics and. Yep. And then you see them again in the next class a year from now.
Same thing,
right? And then you have maybe younger people who they go like Trustafarian. They're just like, I saw this thing in my life and now I pulled the ripcord.
Yes.
So what would you say to somebody who's stuck in that place about how to make maybe a better decision?
I think you have to have the vision. Like, the problem with setting goals is we set goals that we think we can achieve. So we have to know the how to get there, right?
Yeah.
And the difference is, like, when I work with my agents and when I'm helping people, we try to set their 5-year vision. And their 5-year vision, I don't care if you tell me I want to make 200,000, 500,000, 2.5 million, whatever that number is. You don't need to know how you're going to do it. You just need to know what you want. And income's only one thing. So like for me, it was, I want to be a good father. I want to coach all the sports teams, which I do now. I want to be there for dinner every night at 5 o'clock when the kids get off the bus. Like, all these little things, like that vision, I had no idea how I was going to do it. If I would have gone at that where I said, well, that's a goal I want, but I don't know how to get there, so let me chunk down my goals, it would have never worked. I had to have the vision, and then I had to go find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Failure wasn't an option, and it wasn't something I knew how to do at that point.
Yeah. It's really interesting because just in the physical world, we do this all the time. We go places that we actually can't see, right? We both jumped on a plane and we flew to Las Vegas. I can't see Las Vegas. It's 3,000 miles away, right? But there's all of these steps that we take, honestly, in faith.
Yes.
That as long as that destination is true and exists, I can figure out the relationships and the things that I need to do to get there.
Yeah, and if you want to do anything in life, go find somebody who's already doing it. And a lot of times we think, well, nobody could possibly do that. That is nonsense.
Right.
Usually we're like the 258,000th person to do it.
Right.
But we feel like it's impossible. No one could do this.
Yes.
We are not as special as we think.
It's true.
So if you can take your ego, and Ryan Holiday wrote a book, Ego is the Enemy. Years ago I read that, and I constantly remind myself to stay humble, to stay learning based, to stay focused on growth, and to never think I have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Because I screw things up all the time still.
So in the last interview that I did, it was really interesting because this ego issue came up. And it came up with how many people at all different levels in their real estate career make decisions that are actually contrary to where their joy and their peace would be, right? So what would you, you're talking to a team, somebody who owns a team, somebody's on a team, somebody who's a solo producer. What would you talk to them about when it comes to their ego and the voice that it has?
Well, let's look at the real estate industry and why they make ego such a strong play. For a broker, I get paid on your volume. I don't get paid on your net income. I don't even care what your net income is. So everything I do is to celebrate your gross income. So you get people that really understand that to get the most admiration and praise and recognition, they have to have the highest GCI. And that's the number we talk about, GCI, GCI, GCI. And over the years, I've met tons of people that have really high GCIs, virtually no net profit, and they are miserable in their business.
Right.
And like that's, to me, is just a recipe for disaster. So how do we get off that hamster wheel of thinking GCI means anything? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you sold 3 homes and made $100,000 or you sold 500 homes and made 100,000. Like that, I'd rather sell 3.
Right.
So much easier.
It's so interesting. So I grew up in western Montana, and it's duct tape and baling twine is how you fix everything. Everybody's a jack of all trades, master of none.
You've stored everything just in case you need it.
Absolutely, that was the deal. And my parents never made anywhere close to the amount of money that I made, and it drove me crazy when I was young and more immature than I am now, because I saw them live with a level of contentment that I just didn't understand.
Well, you know what they say about happiness. To be happy is easy, but most people don't want to be happy. They want to be happier than other people. And we overestimate how happy other people are. And Facebook, social media, all that stuff's a great example. Like if you and I are both on our wealth journey and you go buy an investment property and it cash flows and it costs you $50,000 out of your pocket or whatever it is, nobody on Facebook sees that, thinks about that. Nobody understands the freedom that you're creating for yourself. And then I go on a big vacation to Italy and we go to the wineries and we go on a hot air balloon and all that stuff.
Right.
And I post all those pictures. The backwards world of social media thinks I'm a success and you're not.
Yeah.
Because you're not putting that up there. But we also have to remember that's my social media is a better version of me. It's a happier version of me. It's everything that I want to show and then everything I want to hide, I keep it off.
Right.
So we can't compare ourselves to what other people look like on a medium like that.
I had a moment a couple years ago where I stopped and I realized that a lot of the things I would told myself that I wanted, I actually didn't want. Mm-hmm. It was sick to the point, and I tell myself I've been pretty good with this across my life, but I bought a car that was really nice, and it was really fun to drive. I love driving. I love sports cars. And I didn't buy another car because the other car was what people who like to drive but can't afford a real car buy. So I bought a Porsche, which was phenomenal. It was a great deal. It was used. It was wonderful. But the car that I wanted was a third of the price, and I didn't buy it because it didn't look the part.
Wow.
And as soon as I bought that car, I was so embarrassed, not about the Porsche, because it was great and I loved the car. I was embarrassed by what happened inside of me and why.
We see somebody driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and the person driving that car is driving around going, man, everybody thinks I am so cool. Everybody thinks I'm so successful. But think about the last time you saw somebody driving a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that. You probably never even thought about the person driving.
No.
You automatically put yourself in it. God, what would it look like if I had a Lamborghini? What if that was my Ferrari? What if I was driving around in that? So the person driving who bought it to show off and to show how great they are and all that are completely removed out of the picture.
Sure.
So we can picture ourselves.
Yeah.
So the idea that that car is going to mean anything, that's all ego. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, and it's amazing because you run through the gauntlet of all the things that you could have with financial success. But I think when you come to the place where you realize, I actually don't want a bunch of these things.
No, I think when I think of somebody asked me like, well, what's next? What do you want to do? And I was like, okay, well, I've got 3 kids. I made a vow to myself that I would take a one-on-one vacation with each one of those kids every year until they turn 18. So it's just myself and my daughter, myself and one of my sons doing whatever they want. So there's 3 trips a year, 4 if my wife has anything to say about it. Then I want to take a couple of trips with my wife, and then I want to take a couple of trips with my family. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, so I want to travel a lot, but not travel for what I used to think I wanted to travel for.
Right.
Now I'm traveling because I want to have experiences and create memories with the people that matter the most. And that's probably 80% of my travel. And then I'll do other crazy stuff like climb a mountain with you or go whitewater rafting or whatever it is. That's fun too.
Yes.
But now when you add all those things up, now that's the reason I'm working. That's the reason I want to have income. That's the reason I want cash flow.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's bring it back into the business world. And I just asked, right, so you've again, 20 years. What's your superpower? What are you, let's jump back into to real humility, which sometimes looks like ego.
Let me just tell you what my superpower is.
What are you?
R and D.
Okay.
Rip off and duplicate. I have made my entire career learning from other people who are much smarter than me, who have created things that I didn't even know were possible, and then I go back and implement what they did.
Wow.
So everything I've built in my business, everything I've grown over the years is because I learned it somewhere else, and then I implemented it.
You know, I love that because I look around at a bunch of our peers and a bunch of our friends, and I can't help but think how much smarter so many of them are than I am.
Right.
But what you said is what I heard superpower-wise was implement.
Yeah, when they say knowledge is power, no, it's not. Knowledge with implementation is power. That's where it changes. Because we all know agents that go to every training known to man. They have every letter behind their name. Remember when you had to have like CRS and SRG and all these letters of all these designations, and like you still didn't sell any real estate because they don't help you sell any real estate? Like that is education for education.
Yes.
I want education for implementation.
Yeah, absolutely. What are a couple big regrets that you've had in business? Things that you wish you could take back or that were maybe lessons pretty darn painful?
Yeah, so I had my number 1, number 4, number 6, and somebody else, like 4 people all come to me and leave my team. And when I did some soul searching to understand why, it's very easy to blame them and like there was a lot of entitlement, so that's their fault and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, everything is our fault.
Yeah.
We have to take responsibility for everything. So I realized at that moment, gosh, I wasn't providing enough opportunity. I wasn't providing a roadmap for their continued success. Maybe I was putting a glass ceiling over them, and they realized they could go somewhere else or think they could go somewhere else and do better. So 1, I wasn't providing enough opportunity. Number 2, I probably was in a state of my life that I wanted to show off like some of the things on social media and all the dumb stuff and go on vacations. And I think that the people that are watching, that are on your team, that are working hard every day, look up and you're always vacationing or driving a fancy car and all that, and they start to get a little frustrated that that's not them and they're doing all the work. So I realized like one, that's not what I care about anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't need to do that. Number two, I don't need to advertise any of it. I think that's just a full ego. It's all about ego.
Yeah.
And so getting out of the ego and realizing it's about providing opportunity for your people. And that now all my focus is on them and what they can do and where they can go. And I don't have to really worry about me anymore.
Something you said that I think is just incredibly impactful.
Only one thing?
Well, we're working on two.
Okay.
What did you have to do to get to the place where you were willing to deeply say everything in my business is my fault, and actually not just say that and then say, but they blank?
Yeah.
How'd that look?
I think that's part of the personal growth journey, because everything in your business is your fault. Everything wrong with your marriage is your fault.
Yeah.
Everything. And I went through a divorce. I had a wife that cheated on me while we were engaged. I found out like 3 months after we were married, like that was my fault. And I had to stop and realize, all right, where was my role in that? What did I do wrong? What could I do better? What can I learn from that so that I'm not repeating that with my next relationship? And most people are like, well, no, they cheated. It's their fault. No, that's not the truth. The truth is everything that happens is on you. If you're going somewhere and you get in a car accident, that's on you. Like, it happened. 10% is what happens. 90% is how you react to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just a business thing. I think you have to look at everything. If your health is off, that's your fault.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it may be. So getting into that, I think, is really clear, that personal growth path.
Man, I have goosebumps around that just because it's so amazing, because everything that's not your fault is irrelevant because you have no control over it.
Yeah.
Right? I think people feel like it's crushing, but it's so disempowering to blame anybody other than the man or woman in the mirror.
Yeah, that victimhood where it's like always somebody else's fault. How are you ever going to succeed in life if your success is rooted on whether somebody else does something or doesn't do something?
Whether it's fair or not, again, it goes back to this, it's irrelevant.
Right. Life is not fair. And I try to teach my kids that, and that's hard because we don't have a rough life. We don't have we have a very comfortable life, and I have to find ways to add adversity.
You have to engineer it.
Yeah, I have to make them struggle through something. I have to hold them in that struggle longer so they start to understand that they have to get out of it. I can't save them. Like, are your kids, like, anything happens, I want to run and grab them and save them and help them, and you can't.
Right.
You have to let them go through that, because that's what they learn, how to get through everything moving forward.
It's such a hard leadership lesson because it shows up in every other area of your life, and somebody did it for us.
Yes.
Right. My parents watched me walk through the most miserably hard season of my life, and they loved me and they cared about me, but they didn't rescue me.
Yeah.
And that, looking back, that was such a gift. Right. Such a gift.
Well, remember when you were a kid and you had that one friend whose parents let them do anything they wanted, and you're like, man, I wish I just had parents like that. And now that you're older and you realize that person's probably in jail, and you're like, thank God I had parents.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank God I had parents that were like, you need to be home by 11. I was like, 11, come on. Or like when I turned 16, my mom was like, all right, we're going to buy you a car. And I'm like, awesome. This is going to be great. 243,000 miles, stick shift diesel Volvo.
Yeah.
That they bought for $500. And they came home with this car, and I was like, what is that? And it was like, that's your car. If you want something better, go work for it. And I was like, that lesson? And my parents were smart. They actually said, whatever I save up, they will match it. So, as a kid, it's kind of hard to make a ton of money to buy a car. But when you have a match, 100% match, like all of a sudden it was like, all right, I can do this. I worked really hard, and I did all kinds of crazy jobs, and then I bought my first car, and it was, nothing special, but I was out there washing and waxing it, keeping it spotless. And I see other friends who, their parents, they turned 16, and here's your brand new Jeep Wrangler. I say Jeep because I loved Jeeps back then. I still have one today. And they're like, don't care about it at all. They're not washing it. They're barely keeping up with it. It's given to them.
Yeah.
So I think we have to put that people in that struggle, and then let them see the reward from their hard work.
Yeah. Man, I love that. What are some behaviors that you have or have had in your business that have really helped you or hindered you?
Being habitual. So, like we're in Vegas, I knew I have to wake up and I have to move my body. That's a no-brainer. And being in Vegas, we're 3 hours difference from the East Coast. So when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna set my alarm for 5, yeah, but at like 2 a.m., which is 5 a.m. back home, my eyes are open. I'm like, what do I do? So I forced myself to sleep as much as I could, but then I woke up, I did 20 minutes of meditation, got dressed, went downstairs to an awful gym. It was hot and gross and sticky, and I was like, doesn't matter. That's I could use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm not gonna do that, but I'm here, I have to work out. Got my workout in, got a good breakfast, ate my protein. Like my daily routine at home is up at 5, gym from 5:30 to 6:30. From 6:30 to 8 a.m. is my time with the kids. I get them dressed, teeth brushed, downstairs. We have breakfast. I empty the dishwasher. That's my wife's love language for whatever reason. Like I have all these habitual things, and then at 8 o'clock, I hand them to perfect ready kids. She's had the baby the whole time, and I head off to work every single day. And I never am like waking up and starting my day at 11 or like I have the energy. My Whoop band, I track all of my sleep. So if I want to wake up at 5, I need to know what time to go to bed. And if I'm going to bed, I need to make sure I have the right pillow and I need to make sure I have a mattress. But like all these things that I'm doing to make sure that I stay within my habits.
Yeah.
And when you start building your schedule that way, my Monday, I know who I'm meeting with every single week. My Tuesday, I know who I'm coaching every single week. And I do have plenty of free time and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to fill in whatever needs to be filled in. But I'm so habitual in the things I do. And it's that compounding effect. Little. All of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah. So I think about, so here's an agent and they're selling maybe 20 homes a year, 24 homes a year.
Which is awesome.
They're doing great, but they're absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have this conversation and there's this feeling of like something to the effect of I could never do that. And so all of a sudden there's just this giant stop sign with their future and their goals and everything else. What would you tell that agent?
You're right. You can never do that. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And I think that's the first step. So if you think that you can't do something, go find somebody else who's doing it. Somebody that you look up to, somebody that you think is amazing, somebody you think, I could never be like them, and then go spend time with them.
Yeah.
And realize they're human. They're really good at that one thing that you wanted, but they're terrible at something else that you're good at.
Right.
And all of a sudden, when you look for mentors and then you spend time with those mentors, all of a sudden the pedestal starts getting lowered.
It does.
And you see yourself like, you know what, I could do that.
Yeah.
And when I first joined KW and Gary had his mastermind, Gary Keller's mastermind, top 100 agents in the entire company, invite only, 3 hours of masterminding with just those people. And I was a peon in the industry with there was no invitation for me.
I remember that.
Yeah. So
I was in the same boat.
I literally, for 2 years, would wait for Gary to leave his last meeting before he went into that mastermind. And I'd jump up next to him as he was walking, and he kind of like hovers through the air. And I'm like walking next to him, and I was like, Gary, my name is Nick. I know I'm not supposed to be in this room because I don't have the production yet, but I got to tell you, what I know is the people I surround myself is what's going to blah, 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 blah. Is there any way I could just sit in the back and not say a word? And we'd get to the door, and he would look at me, and he'd go, and he'd head nod me in. Yeah. And I go in, and I started listening to everybody, and I'm like, I don't have a clue what they're talking about. This is so far above my head. So I just started writing down names. Okay, who spoke next? Okay, Ben Kinney. Okay, I wonder who that is. Writing down all the names. I would leave. I would then go social media, friend all these people. Then I would ask them questions. Hey, in Gary's mastermind, you said blah, blah, blah. What did you mean by that? And what did they think? They thought I was in the mastermind. They thought I should have been there. They're like, oh, Nick's one of us. And they start sharing their ideas and sharing their thoughts. And over time, it was about 2 years of that. And then Mindy, who was Gary's assistant at the time, literally saw me coming, put her hand out on my chest and said, you do not have an invitation. You cannot come in. And I was like, Gary. And then he went in and I was like, crap. So After 2 years, I've got probably 50 out of the 100 people in my Rolodex that I've talked to, that I've gotten to know. So I called every one of them and I said, can you send an email to Mindy and just say, hey, have you met Nick Waldner? I think he should be in that room. I think he deserves to be in that room. And the very next event, I ran into Mindy. I was like, oh, hi, Mindy, I'm Nick Waldner. And she was like, wait a minute. Everyone keeps telling me you should be in Gary's room. And I was like, what's that? I'd love to be in there. I don't know what it is.
You know what's amazing about that story to me is you might not have physically been in that room, but your head was there.
Yeah.
And it's just one of these things that we learn over and over, and we keep telling ourselves, and that is that this has to precede you. The way you think, the way you look at your life, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah. If I saw that room as just a prestigious, oh, I'm in the room, this is awesome, I didn't. I saw that room as this is my connection to the best of the best. This is my way to learn, and this is where my superpower, R&D, rip off and duplicate, comes from. There's so many smart people in front of us. Just learn from them and then apply it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think back to those times and how many people were so gracious with me and with you and with each other to take time and just say, "Time, we're going to help you walk through this," right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing because kind of even going back to ego conversation, so many people want to give and serve, and I think sometimes we don't allow them to. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we're the benefactor, unfortunately, of that.
Well, I think part of that is like, you have to understand the joy of giving and serving. And sometimes we rob somebody of that opportunity to feel like they're giving, feel like they're serving, because we don't want to impose and we don't want to put somebody out. But the truth is, like, if somebody stops me in the hall and asks me a question like, hey, Nick, I came to your training. I was really impressed with blah, 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 blah. Can I just ask you one question about it? I'm like over the moon excited about that. Like they're like, I'm so sorry to bother you. That happened today, and I was trying to go to the bathroom, and I was like, oh, I'm trying to go to the bathroom. But it was okay. But I was like so excited that I made an impact on them, and they were asking a quality follow-up question. If somebody came to me and was like, hey, that thing you taught the other day, I wasn't really paying attention. Tell it to me again. No thanks.
Oh yeah, that is so interesting because my experience with so many people have gone stratospheres beyond me. They will stop and just give you their best.
Right.
If you don't do anything about it, and you don't even try to do anything about it, you don't even fail and go up in flames.
Right.
There's this feeling of they just squandered their time and their energy, and that's the thing that people don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. But we want to have an impact. We want to give back. That's the reason, like, if there's a billionaire in your city and you pick up the phone and find a way to connect with them, like let's say they have a charity that they really appreciate, go donate to that charity and then mention something to them about like, hey, really glad that you're part of XYZ charity. Instantly, you're going to build rapport and be able to start talking to them.
Yeah.
Oh, a friend of mine, check this story out. A friend of mine wanted to get, he wanted his circle to improve. He wanted to go the best of the best of the best. So people like Ed Milet and Coach K from Duke and like, I mean, you name it, he had a smorgasbord of really successful people in all kinds of different industries. He made custom Jordans and he would mail them one.
No.
And then in the box, he said, if there's any way that I could get 15 minutes of your time, I'd really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions for you, and I'll happily send you the left shoe, or whatever it is. He said every single person was like, wow, and called him back and gave him 15 minutes or even more, and he handed him a shoe, except for Coach K. Coach K probably has enough Nikes, he didn't need them. But I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Love it.
Like, that's how you connect with people. We're all humans. Whether we're put on a pedestal or not, we're all humans.
Yeah. So if you were going to zoom back into talking to maybe the avatar in our industry, which is a solo producer, right? Whether they're there because that's the best thing for them or not, what would be the small handful of things that you would, the 20 years of wisdom, what would you drop on them?
I would start off with, what is it that you love doing? And everything else, stop doing it. Hire somebody else, get leverage, buy a system, infuse tech in it, whatever it is, like stop doing it.
What if the next thing was the limiting belief?
Oh, then that just goes to personal growth. Like one of the things on my team, our mission statement is we are in the business of developing people. I don't really even talk about selling real estate. We're developing people. If I help you become a better father, you're a better real estate agent. If I help you be a better communicator with your spouse, you're a better real estate agent. If I help you get healthier and get more energy, you're a better real estate agent. So it's the same thing. If you have those limiting beliefs and you're struggling there, that's about personal growth. That's about going and finding and listening and hearing what people say and how they teach you to get over that.
I love it. Nick, I could talk to you for another 2 hours on this stuff. I'm just
Well, you're stuck.
so excited.
I saw who's coming up next. I'm sorry. You're
It's beautiful, man. I just want to thank you for taking the time. Our intention is to make an impact, empower, and encourage real estate professionals, and you absolutely knocked it out of the park. So thank you again for sharing, for giving, and for putting your money where your mouth is.
Thank you for even putting this on for people who want to get better and want to learn. Can you imagine if we had this when we were coming up?
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.